Hi everyone. So today we are going to be talking about the case of Lauren Smith Fields. This case, if you haven't heard of it or you haven't really paid much attention to it, this case is infuriating, it's aggravating, it's going to make you want to rip your hair out. You're going to hate the police here, especially one in particular. The way her family was treated after her death is disgusting on so many levels, and Lauren and her family, they deserve so much better. And I knew a little bit about this case. Um, Initially, I feel like there was a time on YouTube that this had like a burst in like popularity, and I vaguely remember listening to some videos about it. But then I decided it was time for me to actually do some research and look into it for myself, and I was mad the entire time. I was just mad. And confused, and upset, and sad, and mad. And that is just the easiest, the simplest way to describe how I felt. I'm gonna go ahead and get into this video. All the links I used for research will be down below. And let's go ahead and talk about Lauren. So, Lauren was a beautiful, charismatic 23-year-old when she would unfortunately meet Matthew LaFountain, whatever fucking last name that is. I just want to stop. I already have like a bias against this man from my research. Supposedly he did nothing. I don't agree with that. Something about him is off. So I have a bias. So if I'm mocking towards him, I just don't like the guy. And you're gonna understand when we get into it. So Matthew LaFountain, don't like him, don't like his name. She met him on Bumble, the dating app. And so according to Matthew, the two of them had been drinking and watching a movie in her apartment on December 11th. And that she fell asleep on the couch. And he said that he then carried her to bed and laid next to her. At around 3 a.m. on December 12th, he said he woke up and heard her snoring. When he awoke again around 6:30 a.m., she was on her side with blood around her right nostril. So I just want to stop here real quick and say I wasn't sure like how familiar they were with each other at this point. I don't know if this was like maybe like the first couple dates or the first couple times they were hanging out with each other, or if maybe it had been going on a little bit longer. But personally, if I was at someone's house that I met on Bumble, no matter how long I really knew them, if they just like fell asleep and I didn't know I had explicit invitation to stay, I would just either cover them up with a blanket on the couch or take them to their bed and then I would leave. I wouldn't lay down next to them. So that was kind of weird to me. And it's like he said, I just laid down next to her. Yeah, sure you did, bud. And you're gonna know why I'm saying that later. It's weird to me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I wouldn't stay. Like I would feel like my time kind of ran out. It's time for me to go home. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Like I said. So the AMR paramedic, they would pronounce her dead at 6:49 a.m. So basically 19 minutes later after he woke again at 6:30. It would be 19 minutes later, and she had been dead for at least an hour or more at this time. The medical examiner says that she died of, quote, acute intoxication due to the combined effects of fentanyl, promethazine, hydroxine, and alcohol, end quote. So promethazine and hydroxine are antihistamines, and fentanyl is basically a synthetic opioid, which is very strong. It's like 100 times stronger than morphine. He also said that her death was an accident. So the family, they have an attorney named Darnell Crossland, and he said that the findings have left him with more questions than answers, and here's actually a direct quote from him. He says, I've never seen a medical examiner conclude a mixture of drugs as an accident without knowing who provided the drugs or how it was ingested. Lauren didn't do drugs. End quote. And you might be saying, well, how would he know? I feel like families would know if their loved one was doing drugs. Like, it's I grew up in a family where a lot of people around me did drugs. It was very obvious when someone wasn't their normal self and when they were high. No matter what drug it was, you just knew that something was different. And I feel like they would just know, especially if they're this close, loving family, as it seems they are with Lauren. I feel like they would know if Lauren was on drugs. So when they say she didn't do drugs, I immediately believe them. And even if she did drugs, I can't imagine she would have that many drugs in her system, and I can't imagine her, this very intelligent girl, would mix all these drugs with alcohol, because that is a recipe for something bad to happen. And I also saw an article where I guess Matthew was saying that she was doing drugs and she was acting a little weird. She was like passing out and stuff, and she was just being really weird. I don't know why. Like, if you know this person did drugs and they had mixed it with alcohol, why you wouldn't just get them help? You are obviously there. I don't know, that's just weird to me. Maybe there's something there I'm missing, but I did only see that in one article. So, like I said, if the family says she didn't do drugs, I'm siding with the family. And it is kind of weird that they would just say, yeah, she has a mixture of all this in her system, it's an accident. So she accidentally mixed all of this together? That's kind of weird. So Lauren's family maintains that the police did not notify them of her death. And this is where I start to get really upset. And that they failed to collect key pieces of evidence, which we'll go over later, from the scene. So Darnell Crosland would actually file a legal notice as part of a planned lawsuit against the city and police department because they did not, saying that they did not properly investigate, but also that they violated the family's civil rights for not letting them know about her death. And the manner in which they found out is so infuriating. So on December 13th, and this happened in 2021, I don't know if I said that. On December 13th, Lauren's mother, Chantel, grew worried that she hadn't heard from Lauren in a few days because Lauren was supposed to be hosting Christmas dinner at her apartment, and they hadn't been able to reach her to discuss plans on how they were going to do that. And she was so worried that she would drive to the apartment to see if she was home. And when she arrived, she found a note on the door that read, quote, "If you're looking for Lauren, call this number," end quote. She called, and it was the landlord that picked up. And the landlord informed her that her daughter had been found dead the previous morning. Not the cops. The landlord. They had to drive to her apartment, see a note, and call the landlord. Imagine if it hadn't been so soon after. Imagine if it had been days later and they're finding out from the landlord. Just imagine, you know? So, this is really sad. We have a quote from Chantel, and she says, "I started panicking. All I could do was just stand there like if I was frozen. I could not believe what he was telling me, that my baby was gone." End quote. Imagine your daughter and you have this plan that she's going to host Christmas. You're a little bit worried about her. I'm sure you're not thinking she's dead, but you're a little bit worried about her, so you go to her apartment, and then you have to find out from her landlord that she died the day prior, and the cops couldn't have been bothered to tell you. Listen, from the get-go, they've already fumbled this. There's no defending them. I'm sorry, there's just not. So Lauren's brother, Tavar Gray Smith, said a detective later told him that they didn't need to reach out to the family because, quote, "We had her passport and her ID, so we knew who she was," end quote. That's not the point. Just because you didn't have to ID this person doesn't mean she didn't have family. And it's not like they didn't have contact information. We're gonna get, because it's gonna play into the key evidence part. You just call the fucking family. You just do. It's a hospitality thing. They're her fucking family. They need to know if something's wrong. And something is very wrong in the situation, and they couldn't pick up the fucking phone. Are you joking? The police are a fucking joke here. End of fucking story. Well, the officers did collect those items from her apartment, as well as over $1,000 in cash, a credit card, and her cell phone as evidence. They had her cell phone. You couldn't, find her mom's number in the contacts and say, hey, I'm Detective so-and-so. Your daughter has been found dead. You couldn't have done that, you know what I'm saying? That's just weird to me. So the family says the key pieces weren't processed until 2 weeks later, and that is only because the police returned at their urging. They had to beg the police to go back and look at the scene because when they were in her apartment, they saw some stuff. So what did they see? This evidence included bloodied sheets, drinks, a pill, and a condom with semen in it. Yeah. So you know how earlier I said I don't like Matthew LaFountain? And there's just something a little bit off about this guy. And sure, dude, you certainly just lay down next to her. You weren't doing anything nefarious. Whose semen was that? Uh, who? I don't think Lauren's gonna fuck somebody, just leave the condom out and have another dude over. So who's the dude? Oh, it's a Matthew fucking LaFountain. A condom with semen in it. It's just common fucking sense. And I want to say allegedly, because I don't know if they tested the DNA in the condom and was able to figure out if it was him or not. I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble. But I think you know where I'm going with my thoughts. That is very damning evidence. And it pisses me off that evidence, key evidence, was not fucking processed. I don't know. Oh, but they certainly made sure to take her fucking money, didn't they? Okay. 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 The family also says that police refused to interview Matthew. And so, this is a quote from Lauren's dad, Everett Smith, and he says, when we asked about this guy, the initial detective on the case said he was a nice guy and there was no need to investigate, end quote. This detective is going to come in later. You're going to fucking hate this guy. This is the guy that I fucking hate. Matthew's a nice guy. I didn't question him or anything, but he's a nice guy, so we didn't have to investigate him. A plus investigation work. Absolutely wonderful. Hats off to you, detective. Fucking Sherlock Holmes over here. Really? He seems like a nice guy. Shut the fuck up and do your fucking job. Even if you think somebody's nice, do your fucking job. I know this is crazy, but some people are just manipulative. Do your job. Maybe this dude's a little fucking weird. I don't fucking know. Question the person who was at the scene of her death. Even if you think he's nice. I don't know why that is just hard for them to do. I don't know what's hard for the police to do their job. Like I said, this guy's gonna come back around, so. And this detective's name was Kevin Cronin. And Tavar called this man, the initial police detective on the case, while they had been at her apartment. And Kevin, he's something despicable. He said, yeah, he'll be there in 30 minutes. He just didn't show up. And he hung up when they tried to call back. Are you joking? You can't be bothered to call the family. You can't be bothered to question the one person at the scene of the crime. I feel like you're mocking the family by saying, sure, I'll be there. You don't fucking show up and then you hang up on them. That is disgusting on another level. The father, Everett, he would call, and the family were told to stop calling, and then they would hang up on Everett. I'm sorry. How is that okay? I'm appalled. Yeah, your child is dead, so stop fucking calling us. I would love to stop calling you if you just did your fucking job. I don't know. So, a quote from Chantel, she says, "How they spoke to us was disgusting. Hanging up the phone and telling us to stop calling them. Officer Cronin needs to lose his job," end quote. I absolutely agree, Chantel. This motherfucker is... When we talk about how horrible police are, this motherfucker is right there. This dude fucking sucks. So, Kevin Cronin was removed from the case. Excitement, right? Hold that thought. Hold that fucking thought, because you're going to be really upset here soon. But let's move away from Kevin Cronin for a second. Chantel decided if the police weren't going to thoroughly investigate Lauren's death, she would. And so it would take a month for police to finally open a criminal investigation. The family was determined to make sure the case wasn't forgotten. And so on January 23rd of 2022, Lauren's 24th birthday, they marched outside the Bridgeport mayor's office, released balloons, and sang happy birthday. On January 30th, Kevin Cronin was placed on paid administrative leave under an internal affairs investigation, but in late May, he was reinstated. I apologize. Someone knocked on the door and my dog went crazy. Anyways, however, in late May, just a few months after he was placed on administrative leave, Kevin Cronin would be reinstated. I told you not to get too excited. That was really the tipping point for me, because at first, just like, great. Something's being done about this guy. No. He's not even a good cop. Why is he on your team, honestly? Truly. To finish this video out, I have a quote from Darnell Crosland. He says, "We will not stop until we get justice for Lauren and the thousands of black girls that go missing in this country every year. We owe them equal rights and justice regardless of race, and we won't stop fighting until we get it." End quote. And that was the infuriating case on Lauren Smithfields. Unfortunately, there's been no movement. Not towards Matthew LaFountain's bitch ass, not towards any other possible answers. I'm upset because it's so glaringly obvious that something's a little off with our main dude, you know? And it was just absolutely fumbled from the beginning. Refusing to question, not even like interrogate, just interview the person at the scene. Refusing to do that, it's just mind-boggling to me. Like, how do you fumble your job that fucking bad? I don't understand. The police had choices, and they chose the wrong choice every fucking time. This is disgusting. Disgusting isn't even a strong enough word for how this case was handled. Every bit of this was infuriating because it's so glaringly obvious what happened. In my opinion, allegedly, this is what happened so I don't get sued or something by this LaFountain dude. I think maybe they were at her apartment, maybe initially having a good time. I honestly think he drugged her. Not sure if she realized that or not. He took her upstairs when she passed out. I think maybe he assaulted her. And I think she ended up dying. Maybe he didn't intend on harming her, but that's a lot of stuff mixed into her system with alcohol. I think he intended her harm, and maybe he didn't intend for her to die, and she just did. Maybe that was an oopsie on his part, but I think he fully intended to harm her, and I think he got away with it. I truly do think that he was not a nice guy, and I think the police work on this is so shitty. because I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to look at this case and say, there's something here, and you didn't do what you should have done. That's just what I think personally happened, allegedly, because, again, this man was never charged with anything, wasn't even fucking interviewed. But just to save myself, this is alleged, my opinion, this is what I think happened. But I do genuinely think that he's not a nice guy, and I think that he should be looked into at some fucking point. If you're a Lawrence family, I'm very sorry that this was handled so poorly. You guys deserve so much better. You deserve justice in every possible way. And I hope that Cronin does eventually lose his job. I hope that who did this to Lauren is arrested and she gets justice and she can rest. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to Lauren's story, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.